topics on his side of the pond. We had mobile release talk, a lot about mobile, post-mobile expectations, and we did another kind of spin around toward the competitive esports talk, but with that optics on it because of mobile. So lots of mobile talks. If you're interested about the mobile release or anything we have to say in general, go check it out. Go check it out anyways. Listen, there's two attractive men on the screen. Like, I don't know what else to say. You got to go watch that side.
This is something I've always said. Even if you don't like what we're saying, go check it out.
Yeah.
Even if you're not interested, go check it out. If you don't like us, go check it out.
You probably don't even play the game. Go check it out.
Every once in a while, I do get people to go, I actually don't play this game yet, but I like watching these videos. I'm waiting for mobile. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of those. Exactly. So we have 3 more topics on this side. We're going to talk about the Blissey update. This one probably won't go too long, but we're going to talk about Blissey update and the optics of it and a little bit of perspective and perception surrounding the Blissey update. We're going to talk about content. Now, that's literally the bullet point. I put all content, skins, Pokemon rewards, blah, 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 blah. And then we want to have a conversation about Pokemon Unite in the long haul, which is honestly the one that I'm really, really excited about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The Blissey update. You know, we got a full update. Well, you can call it full. We got an update, and I love how organic that clip of me on Twitter was. I genuinely, I couldn't hold in the laughter. When I scrolled down the page, I thought I was recording like a reaction to the patch notes, and I realized I hit that border at the bottom of the page that lets you know it's like the page break where it's like the page is done. And I was like, oh my God. I had no idea there was nothing more here. So the crazy thing for me is that I think the problem with that update was specifically the word that I used. It's the optics of it. It's like, man, that update kind of hurts perception. But the further distanced away from the update I've gotten, my perspective has changed because I do understand that they're working on the mobile release. We just got done talking about the mobile release, and one of the big things that we said, spoiler alert, is that or one of the points that I've thought is that the mobile release to me feels like the true release of the game. And you know, I think that once we get past that true release, we're going to find that the Blissey update was, I really don't know. I still don't really understand why they did it per se, but it wasn't a bad thing. And it definitely wasn't like telling or indicative of their plans going forward.
Yes, I totally agree. It was an odd update to read because when I opened it, my thought was, here comes the Lucario nerf. That's all I was thinking is there's a Lucario nerf inside here for sure. And then there's going to be something else weird, like when they nerfed Slowbro's Surf. And I just thought, okay, I don't fully get it, but fine. Yeah. I thought that's what I was going to see. And then it was Blissey, special defense, going up. And one of its moves made better. Did they fix? Maybe they just thought, hey, we need a quick, like a little Blissey love really quick because we want to make Safeguard better, and they did, and now it's way more viable. And we also want to fix that bug where Blissey gets thrown through the floor. I don't know if I've seen Blissey get seismic slammed through the floor.
No, she doesn't anymore, yeah. So
maybe they just wanted like a quick little Blissey love, let people know like, hey, we're still looking at things while we get ready for mobile. But of course, as someone who follows the game so intensely, I was also kind of scratching my head with that update thinking, I can't believe there isn't more here.
Yeah, it's funny because the update in a bubble is fine. It's a fine update. It just when you look outside of that bubble and you're like, but there's so many other things. It's like it just feels a little weird. And my personal perspective hasn't changed much. I'm not frustrated by the patch as much as I was, I guess, originally. But I still do think that it actually would have been better for them to not have done the patch than to have done it all. And that comes from the perspective of just the balance change. Had they said, hey, we're putting out bug fixes, shop changes, text changes, whatever they're going to do, and they left it at that, like real vague, nothing definitive, nothing that you can physically see and test, I'd have been fine. I honestly,
note from them would be pretty interesting if they did a vague one from time to time.
Yeah, from time to time. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that the biggest thing that my personal fear, and maybe not even something that I think I adopted myself too much, is the optics of it and the perception of their decision making. I was more so worried that people were going to lose faith in them more so than just feeling like they didn't know what they're doing. I know they know what they're doing. They've already proven they know what they're doing. They did killer updates for like a full month straight. So I'm not really worried when it comes to like the big picture. I'm not really worried. I do that. I will say this much: this patch, this Blissey update, put some pretty big expectations on the table, though, because now I expect them not to do that again, right? Like not do it again, but to have a pretty substantial follow up to that, to kind of prove that there was a reason why they did that, and that something was coming.
If I could guess what's going to happen with the mobile release, and this is a spoiler for the other video, mobile's going to come out and they are going to have some issues that pop up. They are going to need to fix those as quickly as possible. Once all that is done, I think we are going to see a big balance update before the next Pokemon is released. So that would be my guess as far as the update schedule. Like the next couple updates, if they do balance changes, like Blissey type balance changes, I'll be surprised, but they're mainly going to be bug fixes, making sure the game runs well, and then we're going to see a big one and then the next Pokemon drop. That's my guess.
Yeah, so it's funny because I like to talk about things from time to time from like the tech standpoint, and as far as the technology goes, I actually couldn't even begin to explain, or I don't understand how crossplay works. I couldn't begin to explain that. I really don't know. So whenever people say that, there's this kind of blanket sentiment that's going around where it's like, oh, well, they're working on mobile. And I kind of hate that sentiment because it's like, well, I hate to have this opinion because it makes me feel like I'm a jerk, but balance is like usually numbers, right? Like something behind the scenes does 32 damage, right? Like who knows? So
I can't believe this.
So when it comes to balance, couldn't they just like change the number a lot of the time? So whenever I hear people say like, oh, they're working on mobile, it's like, I don't really feel like that should take away from someone balancing something. And that was my original sentiment. But again, I don't know what it takes. I'm not a software developer. I'm definitely not a game designer. I don't really know what it takes to do what they're doing. So sometimes you have to just trust the experts, right? And this is one of those cases where like I want to remind myself, like, hey, bro, you make videos, like you may know some good render settings and how to design some things in Photoshop, but at the end of the day, I do have faith that they know best and that they're working hard. And like I said, this game, I said this on the other video, but this game was meant and developed to be updated. It's a free-to-play game. It's a live service game. It lives and dies on its updates and the fact that they want longevity. So I have faith in them. It's kind of blind faith because I don't know what the hell's going on, but we'll see what happens, right?
Well, I think the reason I have faith is because this company knows what they're doing with MOBAs for sure. And I do think, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the updates we've seen so far for this game, the release schedule of Pokemon, patching things, fixing things, I think they've actually been really, really good with that. I'm guessing what happens is they have a lot of ideas for things they would like to change. And some people running things are going, yes, this is all great. Talk to me in a week and a half when we're just not trying to actually launch this game. That's at least my thought. Then again, maybe in an hour or so, we just see a tweet come out from Pokemon Unite Japan that's like, we're fixing something. It's happening right now. So who knows? Maybe they do a quick little balance update, not a huge one, but something small right before mobile, and then mobile launches. There was something you were telling me before we started recording, Krashy, that I thought was a really interesting perspective into how sort of the balance changes happen and what we see versus what the developers are seeing. I don't know if you wanted to tell that story briefly.
Yeah,
I think it is really insightful, even though you have been a jerk almost this entire time.
Okay. So, I'll keep the story like TLDR version, but essentially in the past, I knew a developer and me and him had a one-on-one talk because I was like worried about the state of that game that I was playing at the time. And he gave me some really good perspective. And I try to remind myself of this every now and then. We view the game and the changes to the game very, very differently than the developers do. For one, we have no data, right? They have all data. And while that does mean something significant for their decision making, we don't have the optics of that. But the other thing is that they go into their office or they log onto their computers or however they're doing it every single day and they make changes. They update things every single day. They're always working, and we as the player base see those changes happen in bulk over weeks or months. So a lot of the time it's like the frustration builds on our end like really easily and quickly because we can go, well, they're not doing anything. Like, why didn't this patch happen? Or why didn't they nerf this? Blah, 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 blah. And internally, they may have gone through their 8th, 9th, 10th iteration of the Lucario nerf trying to really nail it down. You know what I mean? Really try to fit, well, what's the implication of doing that nerf when we do this other thing that we already knew we were going to do? And having to hit all these little steps. So it's like, the perspective of being reminded that it's not as black and white as we think, you know, and when you can kind of put yourself in that position and like slow yourself down, it's kind of eye-opening because I do have to remind myself, and again, it's like that faith, like I have to have faith in them and know that they know what they're doing, or hope that they know what they're doing, and at the same time knowing that I just can't really see the bigger picture yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you were saying about obviously they're on the 9th iteration of trying to figure out how to balance Lucario. Something that they also probably have is a bunch of unreleased characters in the game that they're also trying to balance. And then they're going, boy, if people are upset about Lucario, they should see what Sylveon's about to do, because that's going to change Lucario's whole thing. So yeah, we see it as this huge thing where you're scrolling through patch notes and you're like, they destroyed it. They destroyed Snorlax. It's over. But for them, they're like, yeah, we destroyed Snorlax 4 weeks ago. We had to because this is coming. So I do think that's a really interesting perspective on some of these balance patches. And in that way, maybe that little Blissey patch was kind of nice because they were like, this is just a quick fix. We needed to do it. We got some bigger stuff coming soon.
It's actually funny that you brought up the like characters in development, because that same exact developer I was talking about told me that at their studio, they used to have 15 characters playable at any given time, like internally playable. Like they would do full play test of teams like 5v5 because it was a MOBA, and it would be all unreleased characters. It's like, oh my gosh. So yeah, so you have to know. I mean, I think it'd be naive for us to think that they're not like hardcore working on characters that we can't even perceive coming out for months and months and months. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's going to be really, really cool. So the Blissey update, my kind of thought on it is like, it still rubbed me the wrong way. Still not super crazy about it, but I want to remind myself of some things and change my perspective on it and be optimistic and put that trust in them, which I do, because the game is great. I mean, I want matchmaking changes, I want rank changes, blah, 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 but the gameplay never falters. Like, I have a good time when I play the game no matter what. So that said,
Krashy, I kind of like having really low ranked players inside of master ranked games throwing the entire time. I don't know. I like the variety is the spice of life. I want half the games I run into to be an absolute disaster. So I don't know about this whole matchmaking thing.
All right,
but
we'll table that for another time. Yeah, who knows? But that said, I do like this next topic because this is one that I am excited about. It's content, just straight content, all content, skins, Pokemons, rewards, this, that, the other. How do you feel about the state of content? Like, what do you like? What's working? What's not working? What do you want to see?
So I'll start with what I like. What I like, the release schedule for Pokemon, I think is really, really strong. They've been doing it and I'm not positive on the exact timing, but it feels like about every 3 weeks we have a new Pokemon. I think that's great timing for the game. I love how things like that shake up the meta. Maybe it shakes it up a little too hard when it comes to someone like Blastoise, but I really do like the release schedule with that. I think the amount of currencies in this game and the amount of systems that are, there's the energy tanks and the hollowware and the things for your character and all that. I think there's a lot going on that I'm frankly not too interested in. However, every once in a while, there is a cool piece of hollowware for the Pokemon. I think they're missing the mark, at least for me. I think they're missing the mark on the Pokemon skins and the hollowware for these characters. I think it's mostly not very good. So that's probably my biggest critique when it comes to that side of the paid content is I don't like a lot of this hollowware. There are a few I think are really cool, but for the most part, I'm kind of like, ugh, this is odd. I don't know.
So, quickly, just to touch on that, thoughts on the most recent Slowbro hollowware?
Oh, I actually like that one.
I like that one a lot, right? Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, that one lands. I'm going to bring this up because I think it's incredibly relevant, and this is actually one of my biggest worries, because monetization on a free game like this is incredibly important for the future of the game. We need them to monetize, and as a player, I want to spend money. Do I want to get rid of my money? No, but I want to, so that way I know that the game's in a healthy position, and that, when I do support them, it was for a good reason. Like, I got what I wanted out of it, and they got the money. So I agree, HoloWare's weak. My biggest fear is that it's contractually obligated. Like, they can't change the Pokemon too much. And I don't remember if somebody was telling me that it was either about Smash or Pokken, but like the Pokemon can't really be changed a lot in look. That scares me. I would hope that the Pokemon Company would be comfortable with taking a little bit of risk, but I don't even know how much I want them to take a risk. Like, because if it's not canon, that's also going to be weird. Like, if we had like a recolor, like we have Pikachu on the screen right now. If they had like a recolored Pikachu and he was like blue, that, to me, that would be cool from a skin perspective. But to the Pokemon world, I don't think that would make any sense, right? Like, no one when has there ever been a blue Pikachu? So, something that MOBAs do, or like really simple skins, or games do, not even just MOBAs, is recolors. But you can't really recolor Pokemon because it doesn't really make sense. So then what do? Well, you can give them clothing, and like it's cool when it's cool, but a lot of the time it's not cool. So yeah. I don't know. I would say that one of my biggest worries is monetization of HoloWare, and I hope that they can find a way to keep the skins interesting. There's only like 2 or 3 I think I like in game currently.
Yeah, same. I think they are really hit and miss, landing more on the miss side. Maybe if they can find a way for it to feel more thematic with the Pokemon, because I think Slowbros just feels like, oh yeah, Slowbro would maybe wear that, and I think they need to move in that direction. Or Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime has a great one.
Yes,
I
great.
think like that's a really solid thing for Mr. Mime. And then they're also like, Blastoise has got a hat and a jacket, and I'm just thinking, I don't know, that kind of looks yes, maybe Blastoise would dress up in that for a dinner, but I don't know.
The thing with the HoloWare that don't land to me is that it looks cool, but I don't feel excited. Like, there's no excitement level at all. And then when I see Mr. Mime, I'm like, yo, that excites me. Like, that skin, like, is it Magician Mime? Is that what it is called? I think it's Magician. I think. Anyways, I'm like, I look at it and it's so different than the way he normally looks because of the full color change and the clothing, that I'm like, that really lands for me. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that land and don't land. Like Pikachu's skin really lands because it's so different. It feels really good to me. The Cinderace and the Talonflame HoloWare, the ones that are, the tank one, like all of those are so incredibly good. And then you have like the ones that I can't even think of, like Machamp with like a hula, like he's got, I don't even know what's on it. He's got like the lei around his neck and like that's it or something. Or Garchomp with like the t-shirt and like the goggles on his head. It's like, I just don't care. Like, it doesn't change enough for me to imagine ever spending money on it. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how they can handle HoloWare, because I think that skins traditionally for MOBAs is like a pretty big source of revenue. Yeah, and absolutely. I'm not sure. I've also kind of questioned if skins aren't a strong option for them. Like, let's say this is just the way that it has to be. I wonder if there's another monetization model that they can take, because the boosters,
you think, like, upgrading held items so people can pay for a statistical bonus inside the game would be a viable way for them to make money.
I mean, I think it's a decently viable way, but it's a means to an end, right? Like, that's the other thing with that too. Like, there's no you can only milk that for so long unless you come out with a ridiculous amount of items, but I don't really see them doing that.
I will say, Krashy, something that you brought up earlier that I am guessing there are discussions around this and how exactly to implement it and how to use it to make money and also excite the player base. Is Pokemon have the shiny versions of each Pokemon. And we've talked about this a lot, but as far as like changing the color of something, that's where they can do it and it makes sense. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of arguments from the Pokemon Company or Nintendo. They just have to find the right way to balance people being able to probably obtain it and also people being able to pay for it. Once they do that, I think we will see finally a fourth store inside of Pokemon Unite that will be the shiny store or something like that. And that I think will be really, really exciting. It will be a lot cooler than Mr. Mime wearing a fedora or something.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I do have like a little fear with that. Like, if you make shiny skins, do any skins ever matter after that?
It's really hard, right?
You see the problem with Pokemon skins. Like, it just is like an inherent issue, I feel like, with the property.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I do think when they really go full out, like you were talking earlier, and they feel thematic and logical, like the pilot Talonflame and the Cinderace pirate and stuff like that, when they really give it some love, I think they will still be pretty cool, even with shinies in the game.
Yeah, and maybe I just have to, I don't know, just give it time, you know what I mean? Like, I think, again, it's not even, because I don't really care about skins in general. Like, if I don't buy skins, that's fine, I'm just saving money, but it's more so like, I want the health of the game. That's really the perspective I bring. As far as, and we've talked about this in the past, and I'll quickly touch on it so we can hit our third topic, but as far as like rewards and things go, I would love to see them infuse more stickers, more poses, more, you know what I mean? Like, you know how at the end of the game, like literally when your trainer standing there next to the Pokemon, you have the full scoreboard. Someone recently was like, why don't they sell poses for your trainer? Yeah, like there's so much potential little monetization that they could do that wouldn't probably be like a big ticket thing. It's not like I'm gonna go crazy buying a bunch of poses, but it's like, oh yeah, that one pose grabs me, so I spend $3, $4, whatever. So I definitely think that there's a lot of room for them to get creative with it. If they started selling banners for the profiles, or if they were rewards for ranked, or like all of that, there's so much potential for additional content for the game. And I think kind of going back to like the whole Blissey update, like it wasn't great, but they're working. I think another perspective to have in regards to content and with that kind of an update is that, like, hey, they're humans. Like, they're actually learning as they go as well. So maybe everything isn't perfect, but that doesn't mean that it can't improve. So I like to kind of have that thought as well.
Yeah, I think real quick before we move on, you're right about poses. I briefly played a game called Knockout City, and in Knockout City they had poses for winning, poses for losing, all that stuff, and people loved it. And also, something around like banners around your character just on the loading screen and stuff like that. There's going to be tons of ways to monetize and at the same time give people something that they think is pretty cool.
All right, so the last topic, and we'll probably keep it a little bit brief, but I've been really excited about this one, is what I'm calling the long haul conversation. And I mean, I'll just jump straight into it, Jake. What do you see in, like, it's like that typical question, like, what do you see in 5 years? But like, we'll keep it a little bit reined in. What do you see in like a year, 2 years from now, Pokemon Unite?
Oh, when you wrote this down, I assume this was all about long haul trucking, but I'll pivot. So I think what's going to happen with this game is I really think this mobile release is going to be huge. And of course, everything just depends on whether this gets its hooks in people and they stick around. But if it does, I think we're going to see consistent updates for this game. And I think when you look at this game in 6 months, this is an easy thing to say, but when you look at this game in 6 months and then you look at how it looked when it first came out, it's going to be a night and day difference. I think you're going to see complete reworks of a lot of things inside the game while the core mechanics staying the same. Something that a lot of people talk about that I'm not sure that they're going to do too much on is if they're going to have a bunch more maps for the main mode.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, a lot of people think that they're going to have a few more maps. I think they might have another mode that actually becomes pretty popular. Maybe even like a one-lane mode. You see that in some MOBAs, or you take out the jungle completely. But I kind of think we're going to be playing on a version of this map for a very, very long time. I'm curious what you think about that.
So it's so funny because I'm just so on the fence about it, because I played League, and then I played a game called Infinite Crisis, and then I played Heroes of the Storm. That's like the core of my MOBA experience. I've played a bunch of others, but that's the core. League, one map.
Yep.
Infinite Crisis had 2 main maps. And it was mostly because they were trying to figure out which one they wanted to be the main one. But they had a 2-lane map that had a double jungle, and then they swapped to a 3-lane map with single jungle, and then they eventually went back to the 2-lane map double jungle. So it's like they were mostly testing, but it's like they did have 2 strong maps. Then Heroes of the Storm, oh my god, it is 10 maps, 12 maps, 14 maps. And so I think a lot of this comes down to design philosophy more so than like an expectation. And while I think it's my personal preference that I would rather have one map always with map changes and balancing and fixes and this and that and the other, I actually think for this property personally, the strongest thing they could do is have multiple cycling maps. And I think because there's so much that you can hit with the lore and the what city are we going to, what gym are we battling in now, you know, like there's too much to pull from to let it not be pulled from. And that's the way that I see Heroes of the Storm. They want to hit all these different locations because it's a Blizzard property. They want to go to Hanamura for Overwatch. They want to go to you know, I think I can't remember, Tomb of the Spider Queen is, I forget what property, Diablo maybe. Like they want to hit all these different locations because it's part of their property, and I feel like that could be a big strength for this game. How they choose to do it, it could become in quick play or standard modes. It may not be ranked. I don't really care. I think that, again, the way that I view live service games is that they live and die by the content, and I see maps in the future of this game. I see lots of maps in the future of this game.
I would personally like to see, kind of like you were saying, I would like to see more along the lines of one map that changes throughout time. So we're not even having a conversation about Zapdos in a few months because the sort of end game mechanics are different inside of the main map. I would really love to see a mode outside of the main game that I felt was interesting, because I personally don't like quick match much at all. I just think it's this is a 10-minute game. How much quicker do we need it to be? I mean, if we're gonna do something, I would like them to maybe take some of their like inspiration from a game like Smite, where maybe like an assault version. In Smite, they have a mode called Assault, where you get a random character, whether you own them or not, and it's a 1-lane sort of back and forth fight. Something like that would be a nice palette cleanser.
Is that how many players are in that?
5.
Oh, okay. So I don't remember if it was called Assault or Arena. I played Smite very, very briefly, and it's like literally they have like a portal and you have a portal and you're trying to push your minions into their portal to win. Was that Assault or was that Arena?
Arena. So that one's really just focused on fighting inside an arena. And that's also a good sort of palette cleanser. Kind of, when I say palette cleanser, I just mean you've lost a few ranked matches and you're like, forget it, I'm gonna play Assault. I'm playing
Arena. This is stupid.
I would start every day I played Smite, that I did play it. I would start with Assault because it just gives you a random champion. It's low stakes and you're just in there kind of fighting over some goals in a different way, and you kind of go, oh, you know what? I actually never really tried this Mr. Mime build, so they gave me Mime, and I'm gonna do that. I would love something like that, but yeah, I want to see one map that gets updated. Every season there's sort of a new what's happening with the main map, and having it based around different games as well would be so cool. Where it's like, this one is all about Kanto. Like, how do we inspire it? How is it Kanto inspired, even though it kind of already is? Or how is it Sinnoh inspired? How is it, Alolan inspired or whatever? I think that would be cool to see.
I think that, like, regardless of how they choose to do it, it definitely comes down to design philosophy and what they want to do with the game. And the cool thing is that we have all this like previous MOBA experience and thoughts that should happen or could happen, and we don't really know what they want for their game. And I think that's always important for devs to have their own identity with it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think my kind of wrap up of the long haul conversation is that I personally see like years of this game. I just can't imagine anything less, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I guess my wrap up, this is kind of from before when I thought it was about long haul trucking, but if you bought it, it got here on a truck. There you go.
True. Literally true.
I mean, it's true. It's not relevant. I'm recognizing that now, but it is true.
Well, awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching. We do have the other part, or the first part, whichever way you're coming across the pond. So definitely check out the link in the description. Spraggles, you have any closing thoughts?
No, thank you so much, Krashy. I'm so glad to get to sit down and talk to you again, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, friends, like we always say, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone that you love them, and we'll see you on the next video.